I get there, they can't even prick my spine because I can't sit up straight anymore because the baby's head is already crowning.
Do you think it had anything to do with negligence?
And I would just see my little baby's grave. And I kept on asking why.
How do you even get over something like that?
You know, his eyes were just
Sure.
white.
Some stories leave you sad, some stories leave you happy, but this particular episode left us in tears. I'm so happy to have this episode today because so much has changed in her life. There's so many stories to be told, and there's so much encouragement and motivation that is going to come out of it. Welcome to I've Been Through the Most podcast.
Thank you so much for having me back. You know,
It was a pleasure because for me, at first I was not sure if you'd be keen. And I was like, let me try. But she has to come back because not only did your show do incredibly well, you did so amazing and so many people found courage in your story, strength from your story. But I felt like, you know, what God does in people's life, he's not done. And I felt like they need to hear how the story ends.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has happened. And I think since we've done I've been through the most.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I've been, even to date, I still get to those inboxes to say, we've just watched your story. And I'm like, 2 years down the line, you only watching it now?
I can't believe it's
And
2
I'm like,
years later.
And they're like, no, you've touched us. You've changed our lives. You know, how did you get up? How did you get back, you know, to facing life again? How did you get back to being happy again after such a loss? You know, you've been through so much. And I was like, the topic itself says I've been through the most, and I am a living testimony of that. But you know what, after that, it was like, you know what, hearing them being encouraged by my story, I was like, okay, thank you, God. You are using me too much. I don't think I have a heart anymore.
I love that. But for people who did not watch the episode, I don't know why they would do that, but just give us like a brief, just a summary of what you shared, what happened, your story, just briefly before we get into the questions.
So I lost a baby, a son on Donda. And, you know, after 18 years of waiting, my firstborn was 18 at the time. And I was like, you know, I just need to have my life together. I just need to have my finances together. The next baby that I'm going to have, I'm going to enjoy the pregnancy. And yes, indeed, I did enjoy the pregnancy. It was amazing. No sickness, nothing. I lacked nothing. Everything was just
Healthy
perfectly
pregnancy.
fine. I was very healthy. Until the last minute, until the 30 minutes where the whole ordeal happened, you know. Next thing I know, I'm having a delayed labor. I am being wheeled to theater for an emergency C-section. My baby's head is already crowning. I get there, they can't even prick my spine because I can't sit up straight anymore because the baby's head is already crowning. So it was just
how do you do a C-section without that injection? Because that means you are wide awake.
Now they had to like hold me to get to my spine because I couldn't even sit anymore. So that,
And if the baby's crying, it means the baby is ready to come out. The baby is there.
It's there.
It's just
you
like
know.
few pushes, this baby is out.
But for some reason, I gave it my strength, my life, but it was just not. You know, a minute, 5 minutes, and then the baby was out. Just cried a little bit, and then there was pure silence. You know. The pediatrician takes the baby onto the machine. They start pumping, and like I'm still behind the curtain. The anesthetic doctor is busy pumping. My blood pressure is sky high. I'm normally low blood pressure person, but at that moment, you know, so now the doctors are scared that they're going to lose me because my body started reacting, you know. But I asked to hold him. You know, they put him in my arms. And I squeezed in. His body was so warm, and I thought he will just cry. You know? I thought he would just come back to me because he was big. You know, he was like 4.6 kg. You know, yeah. So all my babies.
That's a big baby.
All my babies actually.
Very fresh. How do you even get to 4?
I'm like, I had twins, and they both didn't even make 4 kgs.
Yeah, so
together.
all my babies, even Mukundi was 4.7.
Wow.
Yeah, my firstborn. Yeah, so
and then the
girl was 4.2. And with the girl, I was like, I'm not eating too much. Maybe I was eating too much with these babies and stuff. But yeah, so such a like handsome looking baby boy, you know, and I looked at him. I thought he would just cry and come back to me, but unfortunately,
But I mean, what happened? Because for me, if he cried, it means the baby was fine. So something must have happened.
I don't know. It was in a split second. There was pure silence. You know, no one could explain it. You know, dilation, when they started it, it went on fast. You know, I was fully dilated. The induction process, when they started it, it just didn't even take long. You know, and then I was fully dilated. But the delay between being wheeled to theatre, the baby was in distress, I guess. So no one to date, even after staying in hospital for 6 weeks after that ordeal, nobody could actually come to me and explain what really happened to my son. You know,
6 weeks.
6 weeks I had to stay. I had a lot of complications. You know, I then had to fight for my life after that. You know, after theatre, then I was put in ICU, and the doctor that did the emergency C-section was standing there. It was like a week later he comes to me. I was like, I was even scared to come to your bed because you are such a strong person. Because when I stood there and looking at you, you were going. You know, but something was happening with you. I could see in your eyes that you are fighting.
In you is like,
you know, I was called to stand there so that I can write your papers that, you know, we had lost both of them.
What?
And that's what he tells me. And I broke down. And I think that willed me back to life because I was like, you know what? Then there was the song, Oyalalelwa. You know, no misimo singavumi, you know, and that song was played by a patient that came and was placed next to my bed. At that time, I don't want to talk to anyone. At that time, the therapists are coming to attend to me while I'm in my bed. So fortunately, I started my counseling at that time while I was still in the hospital bed because the doctors was like, this person is going to stay with us for a very long time because I had urine incontinence, you know, it swapped, you know. At some point I couldn't pee. At some point I couldn't stop the pee. I couldn't control it. I couldn't even sense the fact that I need to go to the bathroom. So that was part of what kept me in hospital. My HB was very low to like 4. You know, normal HB, it should be above, it should be 14, 15. And if it's really bad, it must be around 9, 11.5 there. Then you are fine. But it had dropped to 4. Then it needed blood transfusion. Then I was given some products called Venofe. Apparently it's products of the blood that I had to take 12 of those, 1 each day. That means it's 12 days. So they were frustrating me to the core. I was like, can I go home? Can I go home? And when they couldn't get the urine incontinence right, so then I had to be transferred for a CT scan. And I was like, can I be an outpatient? I will take myself for the CT scan because I felt like I have not been afforded an opportunity to mourn my son because I was given a temporary pass to go bury my son and collapsing at the funeral and then coming back, being taken back to hospital immediately. So that whole 6 weeks, it was just
like you need your time.
I needed my space. I needed, like, even after I was released, my family didn't even know that I actually had to drive myself to the grave when everybody, they had left for work. I stole my car keys. Fortunately, my car was at my mom. So I stole my car keys where they were put and I drove myself to the grave because I just felt like, you know what?
You needed
I needed that to start processing, to start healing, you know. And then something hit me to say when the doctor came to see me and explaining how my condition, how I was at that time, and like he was called to, like, you know what, you brought this patient in theatre, you're gonna have to be the one to write her that we have lost both mother and baby. And I was like, yo. And my God in me was like, you know what, I was reminded of the fact that, you know what, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. But at that time, the joy didn't make sense. You know, I didn't feel it for like
where
months.
is it?
Where is it? You know, I felt like the weeping will never stop. You know, there were days where I would like lie awake and I couldn't sleep at all. And I would just see my little baby's grave. And I kept on asking why. I had such a perfect pregnancy. No sickness. It was just normal pregnancy checkup, you know. I ate everything, funny pregnancy, because I could drink my tea as much as I love it. So I had such a perfect journey, and even the doctor that was booking me for induction was like, no, but you're perfectly fine. Everything is fine with you. Why are you not getting into labor?
So what do you think went wrong? Do you think it had anything to do with negligence? Because, just watching your previous episode and people just commenting, people were just like so frustrated by just the health system that they just didn't come through for you, at the time. So for me, I don't know from your perspective, because from the comments, people are like, this sounds like negligence. The baby could have been saved. There should have been other ways, or it was a matter of time. Like if they moved quicker,
time is everything.
if they moved, if the situation was treated with more urgency and sensitivity, things could have turned out differently.
You're right. I think the nurse that took me into labor when I was fully dilated, she's the one, I could say, that neglected me and delayed to actually call an emergency C-section.
Yes.
And I actually was calling for it. Like 10 minutes later, because I could feel that, man, I'm giving it my all. I'm pushing with all my strength. But this baby keeps on the crown. It's just, his head was just, it's not moving,
But also we have that mom instinct, hey?
Yeah.
Like, as
You
a
just
mom.
know.
Like,
You could
even
feel
before the
it.
doctors say we're going for emergency C-section,
You
the mom,
requested it.
most of the times, are like, can I please do this? Because there's that
You could feel it,
instinct.
because your body starts shutting down a bit, and when I asked, and she was very rude, she was like, I know this is the only way to bring a baby onto this earth. And I'm like,
Sure.
I have a firstborn baby that I delivered normal, but this is not normal. This does not feel normal.
Yes.
So then they started doing all the HIV tests immediately, now trying to get me to theater. Like, it was terrible. It was terrible. If you had seen the state I was in when I was being wheeled to theater, no person could have survived that, And after all that, when that doctor was standing there, my body was cold, like freezing cold. They had to put those ICU heaters. They put one and I was still not warming up. Like, you could touch me, I was ice cold. And they had to put two until my body came back and I was like starting to feel warm. Even my feet, I
Sure.
couldn't feel anything.
I think because a part of you also dies
Dies
at
at
that,
that
it's your
time,
child.
and this is happening, and the baby they've put the baby here. So I'm dealing with this coldness in me that my body's shutting down, and I am trying to process that really this baby is gone. So they had to wait for my family, of course, before they could move him. So my family could see him before he was moved to the mortuary. So, but it was just a terrible. And
Traumatic
the sister didn't even want to accompany the doctor to theater.
Yo.
Yeah. Only the lady that admitted me a day before, she was the one. She was like, I admitted this child. Everything was just perfectly fine with her. Overnight, everything.
It's like,
and
what happened?
so the sister didn't even want to come close to the theater. Even when I was then taken to the ward, she never came. My file, it had to be collected hours later. And the sister now that has to take care of me, she's like, I need to have her file. I don't know whether the sister was still rewriting the story, but not knowing that immediately when I got the file, the night before, I took snap of my entire file. For what good reason, I didn't
You
know
didn't
why.
even know.
Why I was like, I just need to keep records
But
of
maybe
everything.
something in your records was gonna give ideas or clues
of
you
what
know?
yeah, but all my checkups until the induction was started, everything was just purely fine.
So there's no diagnosis on the child that says this is why the child didn't live after the delivery.
When the baby's head is already crowned, that means you're literally forcing that head back to actually
because it's
remove.
already gone
It's
down.
already
Like,
gone
use
down.
a
So you
different
actually
now
pull
you
it back.
you're gonna, like, the baby is gonna exit differently now. They have to exit through the C-section.
Yes.
So the child was tired.
Was tired.
The
And,
child
and
was
the fact
tired.
that hence my long stay in hospital, because my bladder was badly affected by that, because the head is down and we're now trying to push the baby up back again so that the baby can exit from the C-section. So that means my bladder was badly bruised.
Days pass and you have to bury your son, and physically you are
I'm in no
healing.
condition to
You
be
are in no
anywhere.
condition to even get up from the bed. You get released from the hospital bed. I cannot imagine just trying to be present for that moment to say goodbye to your baby while you are in pain yourself. It's just like an emotional, physical, spiritual pain at that moment.
At that moment, I couldn't even walk. I had to be wheeled with a wheelchair. Imagine, I couldn't even go to the morgue and prepare my baby's body. That had to be done on my behalf. And that's the part I felt like I was cheated, because that delayed my healing, because
All
I
that is
felt
closure. All those moments are closure.
And people don't understand it. They're saving you from it, but I needed to have done that. I needed to have done that, and I think that could have made my healing journey to kickstart very early, because when I came out of hospital, I was still dealing with the fact that physically I need to be well. I just need to go see the baby's grave. Where do I even start?
But the funeral itself, how was that?
The funeral was traumatic. Like, just to stand up. I mean, I had not buried my children at that time, and just standing up and like, I waited 19 years to go through all of this.
Sure.
It was like I'm an ordeal, a movie that I'm in.
Yeah, it's like it's someone else's experience.
And I'm just acting it, And when I went back to hospital, I think for the first 2 days, I covered my head. I just didn't want, when the nurses are coming for my vital checks, they would find me like sleeping, literally. I didn't want to do anything, and at that time I couldn't really move. The C-section was terribly affected by the fact that I had to go out and almost collapsing there at the funeral. Now I have to, like, the up and downs, and you get there, okay, blood transfusion, you can't even move, you've got drips, you've got blood transfusion, you've got all these things, you can't even take yourself to the bathroom. So it was really, really, really terrible. Unfortunately, I landed on a very nice sister at the ward, as if she knew my family, and when my family just stormed that ward,
You've got a very lovely family, extremely supportive.
I remember Lady P and Pastor P, when they came, it was like packed, and the nurses would complain that we have a big family, come visiting ours, they would know that my bed, it will be overflowing with people.
Shame. You deserve that love. You deserve that love, because that's who you represent. That's who you are. So people were simply just trying to show you that they're there for you, and that the pain that you're feeling, they too feel it. So speaking about that, you have been through so much, as if that is the end of your trauma. As much as you're blessed, I need to say this, she is like an award-winning female personality in sports. You have achieved so much. Just to derail a bit, you are like a renowned name. You've worked so hard, you're still working hard, you're making a name for yourself, you're making a name for our country, and we can speak about the good things, but the bad things, you've had your fair share.
I've had a lot.
Trials.
I've had
Take
a lot.
us through what else happened that our viewers don't even know.
As if 2018 was not enough. And then my firstborn son, and we were blinded by his sickness, I think it started 2020. And it just came and gone. He would cry, Mukundi, his name, and he would just say, Mommy, I have a pain here. He would take Panado. Sometimes it will be very bad that we'll have to run at night and take him to hospital. When we get there, they don't see anything. When they do the test, they couldn't find anything. Like 3 episodes of running him to hospital, like twice at night, and they couldn't find anything. Until then, February 2021, when it really got worse. It really got worse. And even at the time, when he was going to hospital all the time, they couldn't really pick up what was wrong. It's as if cancer, leukemia, that's what he suffered. And it's as if it moved organ by organ in his body, And in the morning, he would have certain symptoms, like he would have black spots on his tongue, and then the next morning they would disappear. And he would have a sore knee, and the next thing he's fine. We run to the hospital, they put like the crown on it, and we're like, how do you put a crown on a knee that is swollen, that has fluid on it? How are you gonna drain it? So then they remove the crown, and then a week from that, that was in March, he stayed in hospital a week, and then the Sunday was called in. That's when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Monday, he was to be transferred to Steve Biko Hospital because they specialized with cancer. And it's during COVID time. We can't accompany him at that moment. We have to wait now to hear from them as to what is really happening.
Was it too late?
It was too late, from its pattern, from the research then I had to do after that to try and understand where did we miss it, how could we have missed it this much, to say, I mean, one person cannot be screaming at night and you drive him to hospital in the middle of the night and then you get there an hour later,
they send you back.
He is fine. They send you back, and
he was so strong. That's the thing.
Yeah,
your son was very strong.
Even in his death, you could see that body, that there's no person no more, but his body didn't look like someone that suffered any cancer, you know. He didn't look at it like it at all, you know. So he stays in hospital for 4 days, you know. But the most painful day that I don't think I'll ever forget, or even his voice in my mind was like a Wednesday, a Thursday in fact, because he was taken on Monday. So we haven't seen him at that time. You know, Monday they attending to him. Tuesday, Wednesday he calls me, Mommy, I think I'm fine today. I actually bathed myself. I'm sitting on the chair. I got out of my bed. So we're getting excited, you know. So he's doing voice calls and video calls to the little sister, Ompa Tuchedza. So Ompa was starting to teeth. So that was the funniest moment actually. Ompa was starting to teeth in.
We fast forwarded the story so
Yes.
quick because we didn't even get to Ompa. Like, I'm sure the viewers are like, wait,
where are we?
Who? Yeah.
But it will make sense just now,
Yes.
you know. So Kundi is making jokes about Ompa's little teeth. I was like, oh my God, in Venda, you know. So my son was such a good storyteller, you know. So, but he was like, that day was the happiest I've seen him since, I mean, I've heard him since the sickness. And at that time, we're just visualizing, it's the video calls, you know, and we haven't physically seen him. But the Thursday took the worst turn, you know, and in the morning, I'm actually afternoon, so I'm calling, I can't find him. I'm calling the nurse station, I can't find him, you know. Then I asked my older sister, she's a professional nurse as well, so like, sis, you are in the department, they'll give you the feedback quicker than me, you know, because I've been trying to get hold of the nurse station. So she calls in, they give her the update, she comes back to me, she's like, oh, Mgundi's not doing well. And immediately Mgundi calls me. He was crying. I was like, Mommy, I'm dying. That broke my heart. And those words, his voice, I can't erase them from my mind. You know, I was like, I prayed immediately. I was like, no, my child, you can't give up right now. You know? And at that time, he was screaming very badly, and he was on morphine a lot to help with his pain. But I felt at that time, I was like, you know what, Lord, if there's a miracle that you have to do for me over and above what you've done, this is the one, you know. And Mukunde and I's journey was not an easy one, you know, and to get to that point and for him to be hospitalized and we are okay, we are chatting, happy, we are checking, we are happy, you know, everything is back to normal. And I'm like, Lord, why now? You know, this cannot be happening. I'm not ready for this trauma, you know. And I asked the sisters, like, can I then have to see him? Because since it's been there, I haven't seen him, you know. And all I'm getting is updates on the phone. And I felt like there's a part of me that I that needs to be next to him. Then they said, okay, fine, you can come on Easter. Easter Day, I had to drive to Pretoria. We get there. They allow us to go in. I'm with Ompaticheza's father, you know. So when we get there, and they don't allow me to go in immediately. So they sit me down on the bench, and the doctor is in there, and the doctor was attending to him. So I see the doctor walking out with a syringe, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying not to be nervous, you know, and everybody with a straight face, no one is smiling, everybody's just greeting with a straight face. They walk in and out, and I'm like, okay. And then a few minutes later, they're like, okay, fine, you can come in. I walk in, let it be, sure. What I saw was not pleasant. His eyes, you know, said a lot at that time.
Because that's a part of you.
Yeah.
That's your son. That's your firstborn son.
And when I walked in, I was even scared to say anything. I didn't even say anything. You know, his eyes were just white. So I just laid my hand on him without really waking him up and scaring him. But he woke up with so much energy. He was like, oh, Mom.
Just Mukundi.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, oh, Mom. Oh, yeah, no, now I'm happy.
Oh.
Now I'm okay. Those were his words, So the nurse come running, and it was like, okay, Mukundi, who's this? I was like, yeah, no, it's my mom. Now I'm happy. Now I'm okay. And like, just like that. And you could see his body was starting to get tired, just by saying those words.
Yeah.
So then he was awake now. So I call my mom. We do video call my mom and my younger sisters so they could see him. So they're chatting, But you could see that during that chat, he's getting tired. His eyes are getting white and all of that. But my brains are not allowing me to like register what is happening here, I'm like, okay, so we speak, we call his grandparents in Venda, and then the grandparent was like, 2 minutes, not even a minute. It was like, Nwananga, I need to talk to you. Mkundi ndo mubona. I don't want to talk to Mkundi, I need to talk to you.
Sure.
And she was like to me, you need to be strong.
Yeah.
As if she was seeing.
Knew.
She knew.
Yeah.
She was like, you need to be strong. I am here for you.
Wow.
Mukundi then says, Mom, can you buy me something? With that loud voice. Like, what do you want? There's food here. The nurse was like, oh no, Mama, how thing today? What day for? She was like, yeah, it's my mom. He became such a small baby at that time. So like, okay, what can I buy you? She's like, anything. So we walk out. They allow us to go out and back. So we buy him some snacks, juice, and that. So when we came back, the doctor was on him again. Now I'm getting scared. So we wait for a while, for a long time actually. So they allow us to see him again. So then I call my older sister, the nurse, and she's like, "Oh, Mkundi, you are fine." And then she's like, "Sis, I need to talk to you." So everybody moved away from Mkundi very fast, to me. I need to talk to you. Okay, you need to be strong, Nana. I was like, okay, doesn't make sense. And the nurse then calls me on the side to say, you know what, tonight we're going to have to move Mkundi to ICU because the oxygen in his blood is very low. And we just to monitor him because his lungs are not responding well. And at that time, I'm asking, is it COVID? Have you done a COVID test?
Yeah.
Because it's during COVID time. And for someone in his condition right now, he's deteriorating very fast. In a space of a week, there's so much that has happened now. So they're like, no, not that it's anything bad, just to monitor him closely. But we feel that we need to tell you the truth that his oxygen in his blood is very low. And during COVID, we all became doctors. We had to buy the oximeters and everything to understand really what could be, so that we can self-check and to see whether our vitals are okay. And immediately when they said that, I got scared because remember, fast forwarding a bit, I had COVID. When I was pregnant, and my oxygen levels were also low at that time when I was hospitalized. So when they said that, my hair, I could feel, when you get chills in your hair, like immediately. But I was like, what? I walked out of there, I prayed, I was like, Lord, you're gonna have to see me through this one. Because right now, I think my heart has been through the most, to a point where I don't feel that I have any strength to fight or to actually survive anything right now. I get home, so the nurse said to him, I will call you in the evening and check. And then the nurse said, no, we'll call you in the evening after we've moved him to ICU. So we can update you how he is and all those things. I was like, okay, fine. So we get home. Ompa's dad goes to soccer, and then I'm left alone now, Ompa. In the evening, 6 o'clock, I start calling the nurse's station. Nobody's picking up. I start calling Mukundi's phone. He's not picking up. Now I'm worried. I call my sister and like, sis, please do me that favor again. Please call the nurse's desk. She calls. We're not getting anyone. We're not getting any response. Then I had, that heavy sleep. Like in Venda we say unagove. Like that. I was extreme. Like my body was seriously shutting down. Like immediately when I couldn't get hold of him, and around about 6:30, I fell asleep, like flat. And Ompa also was like, we were down. We slept for like 3-4 hours. And when I wake up, I'm calling again. I'm not getting anyone. I'm calling. And now Ompa starts reacting. You know, sometimes babies can sense certain things.
Absolutely.
Ompa now is starting to have fever. I don't know what to do with Ompa now. Where is it coming from? Because this baby was just fine right now. She is crying. She is crying, you know. And then around 10 o'clock, we fall asleep again at night. We fall asleep again. We haven't heard anything, you know. Now I've been praying. My sister, we had a call. We prayed. You know, we fell asleep like 12 o'clock, I think. Ompa starts crying again. That scream, like from nowhere. Like she screamed very loud, and you could see that she's scared. She's like shaking, you know, the eyes and everything. Until about 20 past 12, that's when I got a call. And the call, it's a vendor lady. She's like, Mia Mugundi, you need to pray. I need to pray. Actually, she called around 11:30 when Ompa was sleeping. You need to call. You need to pray. Since I was on duty at 6 o'clock, you know, we have been doing everything we can with Mugundi. But one thing I can tell you is that your son prayed. One thing I can tell you, your son, I actually had to call, the lady saying she called her pastor to pray with Mugundi.
Yes.
And Mugundi apparently made such a heavy and strong prayer at that time, as if it was someone that was not even sick. You know, but at that time they could see that, you know, they had already started to attach, just waiting to put the pipe in his mouth and all those things that could support him. But immediately when that prayer ended, that's when Kundi started talking at all, you know, and it was like, no, we're doing everything we can. The heart doctor is already here also to help. So I'll call you back. And that's when Mkundi Ompa started crying at about 12 midnight, you know, until 20 past 1. You know, that's when I got another call to say, Mkundi, we've done everything we can. Unfortunately, Mkundi didn't make it. And that's when Ompa stopped crying. Now I'm alone. I've got this baby. My heart, it's in denial somehow, you know. And I'm like, how? Like, there's Ompa now. It can't be, you know. Now I'm calling my mom, I'm coming, you know. You know, Ompa's father is already on his way. So he comes, picks us up, go to Alex. My mom calls Sanel. I'm like, no, I will tell you when I get there. But I think my mom knew already. I think then I broke down when I got to my mom.
Yes.
You know, it was terrible. It was terrible, you know. And when we, and I think we called you, Lady P and Pastor P, and we were like, you know what, this is like a nightmare. This is like a bad dream. A very bad dream, you know. We drive back to hospital, and I was like, I was just here a few hours ago. This person was okay. This person was talking to me. You know, this person was happy that I'm here, you know. I didn't know that was goodbye, to say, yeah. You know, though his words was like, yeah, this is my mom. Now I'm okay. You know, I didn't realize that it's him saying,
yes,
now I'm okay, mom.
I'm okay, mom.
Now I'm okay,
yes.
You know. So we drive back there. We just getting back into that room, and unfortunately they didn't even get a chance to take him to ICU, because immediately when we left, so the 6 o'clock staff, when they came in, already they found the nurses that were on him, and we left there like late. That means he got worse immediately when I left, because we stayed there the entire afternoon. We get into that room and I'm seeing his lifeless body. I was like, my goodness. He didn't look like anybody that was sick. His body was like, it's if you could pinch him and he could make his usual noise and like, maba kumbaisa, you know. But that was it, you know. And when the nurses were, I guess they were trying to comfort me, to show me that they had tried everything they could, you know, and just them showing me that how much he bled out, you know. He was having a lot of plasma transfusion and a lot of blood transfusion, and unfortunately his body was not absorbing any of that, you know, and his lungs then plunged into all that blood. So when he then passed, he bled out, nose, mouth, ears, everything. Apparently there was blood everywhere. So when we arrived, they just kept the jars where that were connected to the machines, but he was just bleeding everywhere, you know. So just to hear Pastor P praying for Mkundi's soul to rest in peace, it just broke me to pieces.
Because it's difficult to believe, because you're like, no, and I think for you more so, you're going through this for the second time. And you're like, Lord, where must I find the strength to go through this? You know, maybe take us through that, because I know faith plays a very big part in your life. How do you even get over something like that? How did you get through it? Before we talk about Ompa, but how did you get through all of that? Because yes, a mom can be watching, say, I watched your first story and I can't believe it. Now this, I can't believe you went through that. But how did you get through it all?
Faith at that point, I would say, I was shaken. I was like, Lord, again? You trust me too much. You trust me too much. And at this point, I can say that I don't have the strength. And the day we buried Mugundi, when we were leaving his home to the cemetery, I think I stopped crying then, because when we left the house, something to me switched off. When we got to the cemetery, I was numb, as if I'm not watching my child being buried at that point. And coming back, you have to process all of that. Again, you have to come back and now you have to go through it, episode by episode. How did we get here again? And
he was so much like you. Mkuntu was so kind, very loving, very kind, extremely talented. You had to play drums, very musical. Everything about him was just so amazing, and I think that just makes it extra hard. But I want us to sort of wrap it up as we wrap up the conversation. God has been good to you as well, and I think it's important that although we share all of this, and I've been through the most, this is an incredible woman who's achieved so much. Wants you to take us through that, and when you're done, tell us about Ompa.
Wow. So before we get to Mugundi, I was expecting Ompa.
Yes.
Then there was COVID and we were hospitalized now. Yeah, but I've been tested, hey?
I was about to say, I'm like, what? I didn't even realize you've been through so much.
I was like, God, you trust me too much. Can you use somebody else now? If you want a testimony, can you try somebody? No. I've seen it all, hey? Then I got pregnant 2020, in June 2020, July 2020, we were diagnosed with COVID. And they're taking me to that ward. There's a scary ward in that hospital. You're like, yes, you're like, Lord, and Pumina. And the nurses are scaring you. The doctors, you don't even see the doctors that are performing x-rays on you because they're covered with, you just see their voices.
All of you are scared of me.
Yes.
I'm the virus. Are you dressed like that because you're protecting yourself from me?
So they do the x-rays. You can't even see who's your doctor. The nurses, you can't even see. But we stayed a week in hospital, and then I went home to recover. So we fully recovered. So we give birth in that hospital. Then I missed my exams, and come back 3 weeks after giving birth. I have to write my exam, and there's a baby. My sister is coming to babysit because I need to sit for this. There was no excuse, So, but fast forward to August, actually, before I gave birth. I'm jumping around. So August, I get nominated for Women of the Year.
Yeah.
I'm like, heavily pregnant as I am.
This is the SA Sports Awards.
No, this is the G Sports Awards.
G Sports Awards, yes.
So in 2020. So I'm nominated for Women of the Year at that time. And I'm like, oh God, another one. You've been so good. Sometimes...
Tell us about the first one. If you say another one, that means there's another one before that.
So, it's been... God has been great. When they say continue to do small things with great love, even when people are not watching, and when I started changing the sports environment, which I work in, I wanted to make an impact. It was not even about me, my name. I didn't know that is making a name. It's creating a name for myself. And I carried on. I drove the entire South Africa. I've been everywhere. I probably know all the villages, So at that time, 2015, my first nomination for the SA Sports Awards. Like, okay, so Bloemfontein, we have to now. Dresses were not an issue because, So you're like, okay, no, let's go enjoy this. The red carpet when you walk in and they mentioned calling your name. I was like, okay, this is the life. Now there comes Virginia, I'm dressed in green and black, and they start describing and that feeling of being celebrated, it meant a lot. And as if that was that, and then in 2016, I get another nomination for the SA Sports Awards. As a finalist, I go again, the red carpet, that, reliving that moment. So I've got a group of friends and family that are lining up to be my plus ones in these events. So I kept on changing my family. Yeah. I kept on changing my family members and friends, accompanying me to these awards. God is great. So we didn't win the 2016 one, but it's still a finalist as a nomination, And then 2018, God does it again. Then my mom, she was the celebrity. Trust me. She was a celebrity, trust me. I didn't matter at that point. When we went for makeups, they started with her. The makeup room was like so vibey. I was happy that she was enjoying herself. I was happy that through my life journey, she gets to have this moment. My mother's words, so we get to be driven, in Max. Oh my word, I felt like a queen.
Wow.
So yeah, we get picked up. So everybody has the car allocated, Max, and somebody opens a door for you. It's like my mom was like, yeah, Wananga. I know such a life. I didn't know that you live such a life. I was like, I'm glad we are able to share it together today. She was happy. So just for us to be announced that here's Virginia and her mom in a royal blue dress and just having described how she looks, your word. She was calling everybody out. Please watch me. Watch the TV. I'm on TV. So when we won it, oh my word.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So God has been great, I won't lie. In as much as I've had so many seasons of crying and so many seasons of my faith being tested, so many seasons of me doubting even myself to say, hey, what's happening?
Yes.
But one thing I appreciate about myself is the fact that I don't know anything else but God.
Yes.
He is my refuge. I just run back to him. In as much as sometimes you get to like, Lord, so many whys you have them. I'm tired. Use somebody else. I think you've exhausted my heart right now, so
Puts it so well. You've exhausted that.
I've had it all, so but 2018 my mom, we come back in the flight, we in the award, she was so happy, she held it until we got home. We even had she organized a family celebration just to gather and we can celebrate the award. And for your family to gather and just say we are celebrating you, it means a lot. It means a lot. I mean, there are family people that don't even appreciate themselves, but for your family to just gather to say
celebrate you,
that means you have a great relationship with your family, which is really important for me, and I've always worked hard to keeping my family together and happy and doing things together and all those things. So 2018 was really a blessed year. A lot has happened.
Every year is a blessed year. A lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
I think you deserve to write a book one day. Please, Lord.
I will.
Please help her write a book for a story because your story is so rich. And we're so grateful for having you once again on the show because I think people who come on the show, especially I've been through the most, they're so selfless because it's their story, but they don't hold it with themselves. They give it out to the universe for people to be encouraged, for people to gain strength. So I really applaud you for that because it doesn't make it easy to tell the story over and over again. But thousands of mothers are going to get courage because you were, gracious enough to share your story. So may the good God bless you and continue to open doors for you in the sports industry. You make us incredibly proud. Thank you so much for being an amazing mother to all of your children because they're still all your children. And I'm so grateful that you have faith and that it's not something that you just preach, but you practice it because your life is testament of the God that you serve. If I was not a believer, I would say, I want the God that you serve. Because if you can go through all of that and still look this good, then wow.
To God be the glory, man. I have a little assistant on Patusheza. She was born on the road. 6 months, she was taking her first working trip, So I even pay her for her own suffering.
We love mama just like you.
Yes, I'm
She's going to be
her.
a rowing queen.
Yes, she knows how to row even. I'm like, you child. So every trip I take with her, she gets paid. You know,
I love
she has an
it.
account, you know, but she's loving it. You know, now she's grown. She's almost 2.5 years old. She's very decisive. You know, she knows when mommy's packing her
Opinionated.
bags and she's gonna stand by the door.
Like, you ain't leaving me.
You ain't leaving me. I'm taking along. So yeah, having Ompatucheza healed me. You know, her name itself, Ompatucheza.
Oh.
You know, God has given me light. You know, there's like 2 names in her name, and I was like, when I was naming her, I didn't know that she is my blessing before the storm. You know,
Ooh.
she's the light
Come
that I'm
on
gonna
now.
need in future. You know, in the next a year or so. It's 6 months.
You
Even.
made it because of her.
Yeah,
She carried you
she
through.
carried me through.
She was
you know,
the gift from God.
Indeed.
All right, so I just feel like it was God just saying, "Here's a little cute little person here to
the
just
cutest
help you
little
heal,"
girl.
and just put a nice rainbow on her.
'Cause
And
wow.
her mommy dresses her so nice, by the way. So
She's a
shout out to
designer.
you, my queen. She's so cute. But thank you so much for coming through today.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank
I know
you for
viewers
having
at
me.
home really appreciate this as well. We absolutely love Virginia, and it was an honor to have her.
Thank you so much,
for having
guys.
me.
From myself, Innocent.
And myself, Millicent, Mashile, and Virginia.
Thank you for having me. Bye.